Hi, welcome to another Entitled Parents episode of StorytimeGuru. In this episode, we will read 5 of the best entitled parents stories. Our first episode is titled, Entitled Parent and Kid Get Mad at Me for Wanting My Bike Back. Our second episode is titled, M Demanded I Let Her Son Play with My New iPhone. Our third episode is titled, Sir, Is This Your Baby? Our fourth episode is titled, My Aunts from Out of State Take Thing That Would Rightfully Have Gone to My Mother After My Grandfather's Death. Our fifth episode is titled, Entitled Kid Steals My Galaxy Bud and His Entitled Ma Tries to Steal the Other One. Hope you like it. If you like my content, please support my channel by clicking like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the notification bell. Entitled Parent and Kid Get Mad at Me for Wanting My Bike Back. Posted by RickTheRandom1. This story takes place earlier this year, sometime between March and August. I'm a 14-year-old boy and have this bike that I don't really like to share, and before we start, here's the cast: EM, entitled Mom; EK, entitled Kid; me, take a guess; D, Dad; C, cop. Onto the story. I have this red bike that I like and take really good care of and don't really trust other people with it, but I was raised to be polite and share with others, but EK took advantage of that. I let him ride it when I'm not and don't really mind that, and he doesn't have his own, so I feel bad, but he never puts it back where I tell him to, so when I want to ride my bike the next day and I can't find it, I start to worry. I eventually find it in his driveway, but his house is behind mine, so it took me a while to find. I do the polite thing and tell him about this and let it slide, but he just keeps ignoring me. After 5 times of hawing to repeat myself, I start to get mad and start letting him use it less. This time when I look for my bike, I find it in a ditch down the road. This is when I go to D and tell him about it, and he tells me to say to EK to stay the FCK of my bike, and since I was raised to be polite, I didn't really like swearing, but this kid made me do it. I find him playing with some of his friends and pull him aside to tell him this. I have trouble with it for a bit since I've never had to swear, but I finally get it out and let it out. After he goes back, his mom asks him what I had to say, and of course she gets mad. I make it back to my house without any trouble and start playing on my phone thinking that it was over, but if you not, after 8 or 10 minutes I hear a very loud banging on my door. I get scared and hide in a closet while my dad answers the door. EM, your son just cussed my son and his friends out. D, yeah, I told him to. He's tired of having his bike stolen. And no, he did not cuss them all out. I only told him to cuss EK out for leaving my son's bike wherever he wants. Now get the FCK of my porch. A few minutes later my dad has to go somewhere and drives off. 10 or 15 minutes later a cop shows up to our house and says my dad tried to run over EM's kids. Apparently the kids were in the street riding on someone else's bikes and ran them out of the road, but that didn't happen. What happened was they were blocking the road and my dad gave them time to get out of it, so he could pass. My dad is gone and the cop asked to talk with my dad, so I call him and give the cop my phone. Luckily for my dad, his stepbrother works for the police station, so my dad knows almost everyone there. Once the cop knows who he's talking to, he says he'll tell EM. He gave my dad a warning but doesn't. After that, he never took my bike again. TDLR. EK steals my bike and gets cussed out and cops show up when my dad tries to run over EM's kids. Best reply by _skate_boy_. The little bit of faith and trust I had left for society has now gone. EM demanded I let her son play with my new iPhone. Posted by Trash Moment. Backstory: my old phone iPhone 6s got water damaged and was almost unusable, so we brought it to the Genius Bar to see if we could get it fixed. They couldn't. I was going to get a new phone with my mom, and I was expecting one of their earlier phones, so you could imagine how shocked I was when she let me get the 11. I was so happy with it. Back to the story. It was about that time when I had to get flu shots, so my mom and I went to get them. This is in England, so there are the 2 seats next to each other facing forward in rows, and behind us there is an EM and EK. My mom leaves to go get snacks from the back thing of the train. That's when the EK strikes. He leans over the seat and watches me play Crossy Road for a while. I'm fine with this because he wasn't doing anything harmful or annoying to me. He asks me for a turn, which I politely declined. I didn't have a case or screen protector yet, so I didn't want him to drop it or get fingerprints on the screen. He goes back to EM and from what I can hear says, "That kid said I couldn't play with his phone," in that annoyed tone. The EM gets out of her seat and comes to talk with me. I explain how it is new, and she kind of calms down and goes back to her seat and says to her kid that it's new. But the kid stands on his seat and bends over the back of my seat and tries to snatch my phone. My bad, but I push his arm out of the way because I didn't know what he was going to do with it. The M is furious now and is barking at me. I felt so embarrassed because everyone on the train was looking at me weird. I tell her sorry, but luckily my mom comes back and tells her to back off, and then they start arguing. After a little while they seem to calm down a little bit, but they are still mad. A voice goes over the speaker and says, "Our stop," and we get off and go to the doctor. I hope we never have to see them again. Best reply by Rinsa Slugnut. I'm glad your mom said something. If the M would have been keeping an eye on her kid, you wouldn't have had to have batted him away. My aunt's from out of state take thing that would rightfully have gone to my mother after my grandfather's death. Posted by HanPark765. I don't specifically remember most of the events as this happened 4 years ago. So they live in Maryland and I'm in Indiana, so we hardly got to even contact them. Every 5 years they've only came to my house twice. The second time they came was after my grandfather died to 1 attend the funeral and 2 take things that are to go to them. After about a week things are settled out between them with little talk with my mom about inheritance, so we got next to nothing except for a guitar. There may be more than that, one I can't remember, and some money and his old shotgun. But not from inheritance because he gave that gun to his buddy who gave it back to us last year, and his old military uniform/flag. We did give most of what we got to his girlfriend before she legally couldn't get anything because they weren't married. He had a collection of guitars, a Buick, a pistol. These are things that just come to mind immediately, and many other things that should have gone to us because of the way inheritance works. Since the Buick was half in his late wife's name, it was half owned by my mom and the aunt, so technically this should have gone to court to get partially owned property to the rightful owner, which is my mom because she is his closest living relative. They took most everything else and as far as we know sold it when they got home, as they never had a deep connection with my grandpa. Edit. I wasn't told anything about the process. This is all from what I overheard and the few things I was told. Best reply by Dead. Meet 1212. That's awful. How could people be so cruel and selfish? HanPark765. Yay, for about a year my mom wanted to take them to court but decided against it. We did completely cut all contact, not that much was going on anyway. Sir, is this your baby? Posted by El Quaffle. This happened a few years ago when I was working as a server in a fish and chip shop in the UK. So it's an average Tuesday night around 10 p.m. About half an hour before closing. Monday to Thursday nights we would typically only have 2 members of staff in after the dinner rush as we weren't too busy. It would be the manager/cook and a server, normally myself, as I was the only full-time server and could cook and disassemble most of the equipment alone for cleaning. It's pretty normal at that time of night that the manager would be in the office and I would also be out back washing up or prepping for the next day, and one of us would just come out when a customer came in. This meant that unless I was serving a customer, the front was typically unattended. A guy comes in, so I come out and take his order, but at this time we only cook to order, so I say it'll be 10 minutes, he says no problem, he's just going to run to the shop just across the road. I say no problem and go out back to get his food to throw in the fryer, then head back out to continue cleaning. A few seconds later, my manager calls me into the office to check something. We look on the CCTV and there's a pram in the customer area, no one around, so he sends me out front to check it while he watches the CCTV to see who the hell has left a baby unattended, in a chippy, at 10 p.m, turns out it's this guy. We're just stood there like, what the hell do we do with this random baby? He says he'll hang around out front to keep an eye on it, as anyone could walk in, and asks me to keep an eye from behind the counter. This guy was gone for like 20 minutes, leaving his baby unattended in a shop where he didn't even tell us it was there. We were minutes from closing time when he eventually saunters back in. My manager asks him to confirm it's his kid. We knew because we checked on the CCTV, and tells him the police are on their way as it's a clear safeguarding issue and, as a business and personally, we could get into huge trouble for letting someone leave their kid in such a dangerous environment. This guy explodes, calling us all sorts of names and trying to claim that I said I would babysit when I took his order. Luckily we have very comprehensive CCTV so could prove that I had no idea, and my manager backed me up that I wouldn't have done that. This guy just keeps raving about how we have no idea of customer service and how could we treat him with such disrespect. The police haven't arrived yet and the guy eventually just pushes past my manager, grabs the buggy and makes a run for it when he realized the trouble he's in. Somehow the baby has slept through the whole thing. We passed the CCTV over but I don't know if anything came of it with the police. This happened years ago and I've got all sorts of other stories from this job but this is still the one I can't believe happened when I look back. Edit. Hi everyone, thanks for the awards and love for the story. I've never had any awards before so it's pretty cool. I'll post some more stories over the next few days about my experiences if anyone wants to read more. Entitled Kid steals my Galaxy Bud and his entitled Ma tries to steal the other one. Posted by StereotypicalBuan.tch. I was in Tesco like 2 days ago, just minding my own business and grabbing food, and then my Galaxy Bud falls out my ear. I reach down to pick it up, and this snotty little kid picks it up and puts it in his ear. I was like, ew, that is so unhygienic, and I told him dude, give it back. This kid was like 7. And he has this SHT eating grin on his face and shakes his head. I reach forward to grab him, and he runs to him ma wailing. To cut this story short, I told her that he had my bud and I demanded it back. She said no, finders keepers, and I looked this lady up and down. She had tracky bottoms and Nike shoes on, you could tell she was a chav. I then demanded it again and reached for the kid, like these things cost me 130 pounds, and I am not losing them that easily. She swatted me away and pulled her mask down and yelled get away from us. And I was so done with this, I grabbed one of the clerks and I'm like that kid stole my Galaxy Bud, and this woman has the audacity to say no, she stole my son's Galaxy Buds, and she won't give it back. This guy is confused, so he grabs his manager, and they pull us into the back, to the office, and he's like how can you prove this earbud is yours? And this woman goes on a rant how she just bought them 2 weeks ago, and how they're her sons and I'm a thief. I just carefully grab my phone, open up the Bluetooth and exclaim then why are your Galaxy Buds connected to my phone? She stammers, tries making more excuses and this poor, tired manager says either you give back the earbud now, ma'am, or we'll call the police to sort this out. So in a huff, she gives it back and I'm like no way, your kid just put that in his dirty ear. The manager groans again, and frankly I was sick of this too. So I wiped it down with an antibacterial cloth and left. If the buds were cheap and like 20 pounds, I would have said I ain't getting no COVID-19 and let the little gremlin have the other one, but no way am I wasting my money on this entitled kid and cracked up mother. I'm just glad I didn't have the police on my. What a ball ache that would have been. Best reply by H010CR0N. Monsters Incorporated base boosted. If you like my content please support my channel by clicking like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the notification bell.